Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're just going to take a few minutes to let people filter into the room because even with the great powers of the internet, it takes a few minutes to open the proverbial door. So, thank you for being here, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. I personally always enjoy watching people walk through the front door of the webinar as the ticker number goes up. So, thank you all. Come on in, come and join us. Thank you for being here. All right, it looks like the traffic jam at the door has made its way. So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for Women Leading the Way, a holistic approach sponsored by Kari, Estrin, Artist Management and Consulting. My name is Cindy Cogbill. My pronouns are she and her. And by way of visual description, I am a female with brown hair, brown eyes, somewhat fair skin at the moment, a little bit sunburned. I am wearing a navy hoodie and I am sitting in a lovely blank space that is adorned with no windows and no sunshine at the moment. I am the programming and community director at Folk Alliance International. And I have to tell you, I enjoy our webinars so much, and I'm looking forward to getting this one started today, not only because I care so much about the panelists that are on this webinar, but also because I have gotten invited to be one of the panelists on this webinar, which is such an honor. So thank you for that, Kari Estrin. But before we get started, I want to take a moment to note that we are joined today by folks from around the globe and to collectively recognize the importance, complexity, and difficulty of offering land acknowledgements in the context of online programming. Folk Alliance is joining you from the indigenous land of the Osage, Kanza, Kaw, Kickapoo, and Osheti-Shakowee nations, also known as Kansas City. We invite you to not only join in acknowledging our shared responsibility to work towards reconciliation, but to commit to taking personal, meaningful, and measurable action towards the healing the legacies of colonization, forced migration, and cultural erasure. If you would like to learn more about the Indigenous legacy of the land you're on, we'll be posting a link in the chat to assist you with that. I highly encourage learning about your space. Well, as I said, it is really exciting that you're taking time to make space with all of us this morning. It is my great pleasure to get to be part of this panel, but to introduce you to getting started by introducing our sponsor and our longtime FAI supporter and friend, Kari Estrin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. The holistic career is a subject dear to my heart. My pronouns are she and her. I have white shoulder-length hair, some call it oyster shell. I am wearing a black floral top. I have, like Cindy, a big smile, and I have red filigree earrings and a red necklace. And I would like to go to Maimon. I think you're muted, Maimon.
I always do that. I started talking before I unmute. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Maimon, and I am wearing all black, and I have black hair and brown eyes. And I'm currently in Maine, where I hail from, which is the Millisette, Mi'kmaq, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot lands originally. But I recently moved to Tennessee, Nashville, where I spent half the year, which is the home of the Catawba, Cherokee, Chickasaw, Muskogee, Natchez, Shawnee, and Yuchi. My mother, however, was from Oklahoma and was from the Lakota Sioux, where she grew up on a reservation there before I was still a territory. So I bring not only my ancestors, but some traditions as well. And I'd love to introduce my friend, my new friend, Ashley, let's see, Ashley Shabankare.
Thanks so much. Hey, everyone. My name is Ashley Shavankare. I use she, they pronouns. And by means of a visual description, I have short, hot pink hair. Some may call it fuchsia. It is a myriad of colors because I mix too many in one. I am surrounded by tons of costume pieces in my home office here in New Orleans. I'm wearing a black shirt. I have light brown skin, and I am based in New Orleans, Louisiana, also known as Bulbantia, and my home itself is on the indigenous lands of the Choctaw. And so I will pass it right on back to Kari to get us rolling with today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, fabulous people here, women. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the holistic career and how I figured out what that was at an early age. My life is an amalgamation of the following. It's always been passion, following my heart, vision, intuition, not being afraid to be different, and sometimes not being afraid to be unpopular, recognizing what came naturally to me and what I had to do to complement that. So that's how I was even as a child. I constantly, one of the things I do now is, and it may be a bit unusual, but it contributes to a holistic career. I constantly check in with myself in the moment. So I may have hours and hours and hours of work, a lot of admin, consultations, and I'm going from one thing to another. But one thing I'll do is stop and say, what do I need to be happy in this moment? And sometimes it's to get a cup of tea. So that to me is very holistic because everyone's work-life balance is different, and we'll talk more about that. But for me, always asking what I need in the moment, including what that is like in my career, helps me keep my life integrated and following my hearts and passion, and gets me through some of the more grueling times of doing the work. I do holistic artist career consulting and radio promotion. I've been doing radio promo for 25 years, and I have a holistic vision of that. But what we're really here to talk about is the holistic career. So when I was in high school, everybody asked me for advice. I joined a high school coffee house on staff, and that was in 1970s, so that was a long time ago, and unusual for the time. We weren't sexist in high school. That perhaps is more of a learned behavior, but at the coffee house, I learned how to run the 2-channel Bose sound system, not too challenging, and the lights. And that kind of gave me some confidence going forward. I also put on a summer festival in the park and wrote press releases and charged money for concert nights. And that's really the beginning of my career. But meanwhile, I moved to Boston and I put together, I'm promoting 1,200 sheet concerts of big folk acts when I was 24. And really no women were doing that, and really no one was doing that on a regular basis. And people would come and ask me for advice. And I had a very wide breadth of knowledge for someone so young. And so I would look at the person, they tell me about themselves, just their music, and then I go, okay, this is A, B, C, D, and E. Then they'd go away and they do the exact opposite, shoot themselves in the foot and fail miserably. And I'm like, I don't get that. What's going on? But I was always that girl in my room playing guitar, listening to music, and figuring out why the kids were mean to less fortunate kids in school. I never could get it. So grew up reading Psychology Today and just was always a deep thinker. And so I thought, maybe I need to know more about this person and what makes them tick. And I'm not a psychologist, I've not been trained, but it's a natural affinity, which is also very important in having a holistic career. Besides your passions is your natural affinities of what comes easy to you. So long story short, I invented my own process of consulting before the coaching movement even launched. And that was back in 1981. in attaining one person's goals and attaining your goals, it's more than just a marketing plan. It's looking at various different things like, what is your passion? What are your values and what matters to you? Because what my values are, Maymon's values, and Ashley's and Cindy's could be different, although a lot of them are probably very similar. And then do you have any, especially in my consulting, do you have any spiritual beliefs? Do you believe in the universe? Do you have any religious beliefs? I mean, what if you have any kind of overriding principles of living your life in either the way you deal with the universe or with God or whatever, Buddha, whatever it is, that's an essential part of making your career plan work. And in my case, being a woman, I was the fifth women tour manager in the US and the first of the 1,200 seat hall concert producers. And I got a lot of sexism in my life, but it was my faith in my spirituality of what exists that kept me going. And I decided that nothing could stop me because my faith in who I was and what I could see in the world kept me going. So it's very important not to keep that on one side and your career on another. It's to integrate them. So what we're going to discuss today is defining your identity, knowing your strengths, your passions, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you need for your well-being. Like I just shared my little trick for now. When I was younger, it was different. But what do you need to do for your well-being? Do you need to meditate in the morning? Do you need to take a walk? What is it? And it's different for everyone. And then based on all of that and your talent is your strategic marketing plan. So, but in your strategic marketing plan, you have to integrate your value system, what you care about, what's important to you, what you don't resonate with. So I am going to ask our panelists, that's the setup here, to start talking about their own lives. And I want to start with Ashley, who's also the president of the Folk Alliance Board. And I invited Ashley today because she is a woman of many seasons, and her way of her expertise as a leader is incredible. She's very holistic in the way she deals with people, conflict resolution. She's a musician, and she teaches young children. So Ashley, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about how you see your life, what's holistic, what your value systems are, and to talk about any of these points.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thank you for the beautiful framing of this conversation. And wow. I feel like as a individual and also as a in many ways still very both young and not young within this industry. That's such a weird statement to say. Just recognizing that it took me a while to fully understand and comprehend what it meant to start to build a holistic career. I think when I first started out my career, and I think it's important to say this, that as a person in a femme presenting body, that a lot of my career was trying to do the thing that I thought society wanted me to do. And going in these really binary approaches of like what a career was and what a career wasn't, and taking that time for myself to begin to understand that what your career looks like for you is yours and solely yours. And I think that was a big challenge that I experienced as a young person, like my 20s, getting started in the music industry, getting started in this space. But something that caused me to do a hard pivot was having some really deep conversations with other femme presenting folks in this industry and beginning to realize that what brought joy to other people was not the thing that brought joy to me. And so as I developed my career, one of the things that I started doing, and I feel like I want to answer that kind of initial question that you asked about holistic, and is I have three questions. I actually had to write them down to remind myself what my questions were for myself. Welcome to ADHD, where we have to write the notes down, and we have a myriad of post-it notes literally everywhere in every color. They are my lifeblood. But I asked myself, what brings me joy? And first and foremost, rooting my joy and my happiness within the context of what I'm doing day to day. If I cannot find joy in it, why am I doing it? Why am I here to begin with? Then I like to ask myself, like, what am I good at? Or as I like to rethink it, what is my superpower? What is the gift that I am bringing into this space? And then I like to also ask myself the other really important question: what will allow me to thrive? And thriving can mean a lot of different things, but I like to think about it as not only mentally thriving, not only physically thriving, but also financially thriving. What is going to allow me to thrive and have joy, and I'm good at it? And so I like to think about it through that lens in order to set myself up for success, fully recognizing that thriving doesn't always mean money, fully recognizing that something that brings me joy can be something that I do occasionally or all the time, fully recognizing that something I'm good at doesn't mean that I have to be like the utmost expert. It's my interpretation of what good is. And I think that is also something to be fully conscious of in these kind of moments and iterations. I realized I went on like my little ADHD tangent that I like forgot the full extent of the question.
You've done great. And I'd like to point out what's so wonderful here is you've put your ADHD up front, you embrace it, you don't judge it, and you work with it. And you are just right up front, you have your post-it notes, and that's part of being holistic and not feeling like, oh, I've got this problem. But so that was a great start. We're going to have more discussion. So the next person I am going to go to is Maimon, who doesn't work with Folk Alliance.
Would you like me to talk about the same question? Because that is
Yeah,
like my
like,
wheelhouse.
you
Yeah.
know, I met you in a workshop that Liz Sunday with Music to Life did, and it was so fascinating. And I just loved your story. And we all want to make by being in our joy, we want to make the world a better place. And
Yeah.
all of us serve others. I mean, I see Wanda Fisher on here, who's a DJ, and Wanda serves people with her radio program going above and beyond. And you have a farm, you have an Airbnb, you just have a lot of different things in your life. So can you talk about your music and how you've worked with it to serve your community and have joy with your garden and what you're doing with it? Because it's so holistic to see you all put it together.
Absolutely. I think artistically, pretty much it's fueled by my faith perspective for sure, because I was brought up to serve others while my own concerns are being dealt with my creator. I'm a Christian, and I really believe that I was put on this earth to serve people and to share love, and even and that that the love you're that there's no such thing as an enemy. It's just someone you don't really have a full understanding with, and you have to put the work in. So um it was interesting because I was going through this list of things that I've been very fortunate to experience because of that mindset. I actually had a radio program here when I in Maine called Comfort and Joy, where I used to interview people about what brings them comfort, what brings them joy, and why they would be transplants to Maine, because there's a lot of reasons to come to one of the snowiest places in the world. And then I I actually got connected to Folk Alliance through Americana Fest, and just when I moved down, I was doing my radio. I had a podcast during COVID called Wish I Wrote It, celebrating artists who inspire, because I was so desperate to stay connected to my fellow artists. And I started interviewing people all over the world just to find out why they wrote their song that really resonate with me, especially through COVID. And I got to do 3 seasons of that. It's coming back in 2025. But we did 84 shows just talking about inspiration, which led me to meeting some folks at Americana Fest, who led me to Folk Alliance, who led me to participating in um y- uh meeting Jamie Stone and Clay Ross with for Composure Career. They were just so generous with me and just really helped me start framing my return to this industry in a more contemporary mindset in terms of operating a small business. And then I just as a fellow Mainer, um, I, I slash Vermonter, New Englander, I met Liz Sundy from Music to Life, who that team of people I got to work with, just through just really a lot of transformative reading and lectures, made me start questioning like what really brings me comfort and joy. Because I've been an artist since I can't remember since I was an artist. Since I was like 5 years old, and I really did think, did I choose this, or did it choose me? And in that process, through some of you know that I had some significant family losses, and then also with the COVID time I got connected to growing food because both my parents had grown up on farms, and when they moved on, that um, transitioned, I started growing things, found that I had a knack for it, and I especially love sharing food and making food for other, which led me to um, start investigating about land and reparations and how we could get that, just level the playing field and helping people do that, and started working with the USDA and the NRCS and extension programs and aligning arts and agriculture, which brought me to Music to Life, who supported me in creating Gourd Fest, which was an arts and agriculture intersection and a festival we do in Tennessee, which led me to being a part of the Arts and Business Council of Greater Nashville, the Gourd, which is our teaching arm of that for music and arts, and just reflecting on the basic thing on my premise is that to say yes. I when I first yes to what comes across my plate that feels like I can be effective or that feels like it's going to grow me. And I got to quote the guy, Matthew McConaughey, in this book Greenlight, said that to seek out your high what you can seek out what you can do for yourself that is the highest good for others as well. And if you just kind of have a mindset of that, like, what can I do that's really good for me, that's good for others as well? It makes things, even in difficult times, more palatable to navigate. So I think I landed on that answer somewhere in that.
So Maimon,
I have
um,
ADHD too. I live with
no, it's
ADHD. All the
wonderful.
acronyms. I've got all the acronyms. So
Um, with your music, like you're taking your music, you're taking what comes naturally and your value system of serving people, feeding people, cooking for people,
yeah.
and and you're putting everything together and you're serving on an arts and business council. So how active are you in your music with all of that?
That is such, thank you for that question, because I have I've developed a routine commitment. I'm a CSAC writer as well, so affiliate, and I've been with CSAC since I think 1998. I think I'm one of the old guard, since I was a kid. And I spend time in my personal devotions first, and then part of that is just getting connected to my music. I write every single morning, and if I'm not writing music, I'm writing long form to go back and work with music. And I'm in two writing groups right now, because when I'm not necessarily in a project, I need that accountability. Like I have every other week, I have a deliverable for a new composition, and then which we showcase. I'm also in the process of recording two records and a Christmas album for 2025, and I produce other artists too. So I do think that right now, I was thinking about earlier this morning too, that for me, music is my prayer life as well. It's very aligned with my prayer life. And when like Bernadette Fox, who was a architect, said that once when she's not making creating, she becomes a menace. And that's what for me is like, if I'm not being creative, my way of being is not good for me or anyone else. So I have to do it daily.
Well, thank you so much. And I don't know, Ashley, if you mentioned you were a musician.
I am a musician. That's like hat one of too many. I could literally grab a hat sitting next to me and put it on and just change as I talk about the different.
And we'll be expecting that for the next webinar. And I too, just to talk about serving, I too am a musician. I do not perform anymore. I was a music major, voice concentration in college. I played folk and jazz guitar. I love singing more than anything else, especially harmonizing. However, I was pretty good. I could come to Folk Alliance and showcase, but I'm a good organizer, and this is about looking at what's natural to you and your value system. There's a lot of great musicians at my high school coffee house and in college and in all these places, but not as many people could organize. And so that was my value system. What can I do to serve that not enough people are doing? And that's how I chose my path. So now we are going to go to old friend Cindy Cogbell. Now, Cindy, you didn't say much about yourself. I met Cindy when she was first working with Lewis Meyer at Folk Alliance, and we got to be fast friends because I thought I had a great smile. Cindy can be blinding too, and has the just most incredible warmth, but she is so competent and effective and such a leader. And also booked one of the Levitt shells for Memphis. But Cindy, you also, didn't you go overseas or down under or something like that to work with?
Yeah, I've had a really fun life, haven't we all? Like we get to be here, adventures come our way, and like Maymon said, we say yes. Um, yeah, so I can give you a little brief overview, but I'm just going to tell you I didn't earn any of it. It all is just blessings heaped upon my
Yeah.
head that I am ready to receive and step up to. So please hear it as that. Yeah, I came to Folk Alliance in 2005 and came into a very small team. I don't know if you call it a team at that point. It was a duo, and I learned a lot. But what I learned the most about was what it was like to walk into a community that had been established for decades, but that did not have closed doors to the future and to newcomers. And that's a pretty pivotal time in your life to learn that lesson right out of college. So it was incredible. So I walked through many chapters of my 20s with Folk Alliance and then decided that I needed to try another date. Um, Not for any other reason than I just needed to expand my dating pool. I had been dating the same organization and I didn't know if I had more to offer. That's not true. I totally knew I had more to offer. I just needed to wear a different hat, if you will. And one of the things about Folk Alliance for any of the amazing alums that have worked in the trajectory of this organization, you'll learn that you wear 75 hats at once. So one of the most important things you can do for yourself is figuring out which hats, while you're spinning all those hats and plates, which ones are your true loves. So I stepped out. And at that point, I taught university, loved it too much. I worked as a communications and marketing director for a TV station focused on music, loved it. I did architectural design for a high-end concierge construction company, loved it. Was an artistic director for the Levitt Shell in Memphis and the Levitt Foundation based out of LA. They're the greatest people ever, love them. I went on a board for 7 years with an amazing export office, Music Export Memphis, loved it. So here's the fun thing. I did all these things at the same time. Um, because what do you do when you come out of a place where you're spinning all the plates? You overload in saying yes. And so then I know you're going to be really surprised. I burned out really fast, but my bank account was healthy. And that makes your ego go up, right? Um, so then I asked myself very lovingly, like, who the heck am I? Am I Cindy at Folk.org? Am I Cindy at loveatshell.org? Am I Cindy at visible.edu? I was whoever my email address got called out in a conference exhibit center or at a showcase. And my identity was really wrapped up in that because my talents were defining my identity. And then I got this really unique opportunity to do a fellowship through Arts Memphis on community engagement and cultural equity. And it was a really difficult and amazing fellowship that made me start shedding my layers because the homework was thick, the assignments were thick, the work was thick. And it showed me that it wasn't necessarily anything other than putting humans first, which was something I already was doing, but I didn't identify them immediately as what brought me joy. And so learning to put humans first and ask questions and not necessarily be so fixated on what I was going to present and what the outcome was, but to be in the process of learning and listening without actively speaking all the time brought me the joy of humans and allowed me to start sifting through and really letting my talents rise. So that's a little bit about me. Humans are my joy.
However,
When
you
they
neglected
just are.
you neglected to say that you are also a mother and wife.
Oh yeah, I made some humans in that time too. Um, and they're great. Now talk about humbling. Yes, I have 2 humans. I would say 75% of the Folk Alliance world knows Naomi because Naomi came with me at 4 weeks old to work Folk Alliance because I thought I would just wear her idealistically. I even bought her an outfit for the International Folk Music Awards. Babies, stage lights, don't mix. Yeah, that's all I have to say. For any of you who are on here who were kind enough to just carry her and let me live in my idealism of what I thought motherhood would be, thank you. And thank you for not laughing at me at that time because I would have emotionally fallen more apart than I actually did. In all honesty, that was also the first time I was on the Recording Academy board. And when I found out I was pregnant, I cried because she was going to be born right during the Grammys, which meant I couldn't go. And my sweet husband was like, "Oh, we can make it work." He was lying the whole time, but he was like, "It's fine. If you deliver, how long will we be in the hospital? We can get on a plane right after that, and it's going to be fine." But like I said, I really needed some direction and meeting my humans, and I just love humans enough that I got to make 2 of them, and they are teaching me a lot daily. They're both little musicians. Our goal is to help them grow up to be compassionate and sustainable. That's really our whole mission statement. So yeah, that's what I got.
So what was so interesting when Cindy had contacted me and said, "What topic would you like to do?" And I always tend toward the more kind of holistic things. And I looked at her and I go, "Actually, you're one of the most holistic people I know. You'd be on the panel." She goes, "I'd love to." But the reason I asked Cindy was because she takes all this breadth of experience. She's defined her boundaries. She knows, and we are all overachievers on this call, may I say. But you still have your boundaries, and at Folk Alliance, you make sure that you are in your joyful place in what your job is. And when someone has a problem, Cindy has the most beautiful skills, like Ashley, I've seen Ashley do, to deal with any problems, to acknowledge and honor people. That's very holistic, is to be honoring others, even if we don't agree with them, even if we think they're wrong, is to first acknowledge them. And I just think you do a beautiful job at that. We have a lot of musicians on the call, and we will be doing some question and answer. But I wanted to talk in terms of artists, a few themes, and have you all jump in. I live in the South, I can say all. So from New Jersey, okay. But one of the themes that all of us seem to be repeating is we've kind of walked to the beat of our own drummer. One of the difficult things I find in my consulting that artists come to me with is a lot of shoulds. I should do this. I should tour. I should have 3 social media accounts. I should. And that's never very successful because you get to look at your unique talents, what's important to you, what your value system is, and no, maybe you don't need but 1 social media account. Maybe, and I'm terrible at social media, even though I advocate it for clients I work with, because at this stage in my career, maybe I miss a couple of things, but I'm so active within the community, that's not what resonates me the most because I'd never get off Facebook because I'm fortunate to know so many. So what what I want to discuss is and both Ashley and Maimon, like what are some of those shoulds that you got rid of to help you have a more holistic career? They didn't get these in advance.
Yeah. Do you want to go with, I have something for that. Of yeah. Um, I really got rid of the whole word should because had so many plans to do things that have been uh derailed or I shouldn't say derailed, but diverted like rivers, you know? And so as far as being a musician, I think I'm in every platform and finally I put everything on Linktree so that I could just kind of move it around. But I also found out that some platforms are just not where I want to be because I don't I the either the culture of that platform or the maintenance of that platform doesn't agree with me in terms of just being a people person and wanting to have a certain kind of way of being that's not that represents me in terms of being like trying to be a positive, loving person. So even though those platforms may be um useful, I just find that like they're not my go-to. And so I try to like center a lot of my work in the more spaces where I think they're going to be well received because maybe people who are looking for something that they would find of substance that's healing or just comforting or just authentic versus like sensational because I'm kind of I I kind of miss that 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 era of influencer kind of thing. So and also I think that I just can't be everywhere. So I do have a team now that helps me do a lot of stuff. And I also do also work a lot with Fiverr. Like I outsource a lot of stuff too, so that I can try to help myself be more authentic in my lane. I'm learning to just because I can do everything, I don't do everything well. I'm a good songwriter and that's what I do well. The other stuff I do okay.
And that's, I just like to underscore that point. I've had a lot of artists feel like they had to do it all, that they shouldn't be asking anyone for help. And sometimes you have financial concerns about getting help, but a lot of artists have social media and there are people in their feeds and their fans that could help. And so getting rid of like, I have to do it all myself or, um, and even touring. I don't know, Ashley, if you want to tour, do you want to talk about being a musician and the pressure to tour or not?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I mean, I'll say, like, as a musician, I went through, I think, early on in my career, I was like, oh, like, the should that I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to go on, make music, and then go on the road because that's going to sustain my career. And quickly realized, both in the realm of being an artist and then having also been a tour manager, that no, that actually that's a no for me. I don't mind going on tour as a tour manager, but there's something so draining when you are doing everything on your own to be the tour manager, to be the booking agent for yourself when you're just starting out, to play all the gigs, to drive yourself place to place, that was exhausting me. And I'm not here to knock that by any means, but I'm here to acknowledge that for myself, I quickly realized that that wasn't the way that I wanted to build my career in the music industry. I had to start asking myself really similar questions of like, what is good for me and what do I actually want for my career? And recognizing that being a musician doesn't mean that you have to have all of the success in the world. It doesn't mean that you have to be like winning every single award. It doesn't mean it. There's so many like things that it doesn't have to be. And I feel like the initial music industry or the early music industry that I was raised and conditioned in first taught us this certain model. And so for a lot of us, we are kind of still in this space of like what the model was. And I remember I was in school at the time that Radiohead's In Rainbows came out. And I think this is really relevant because that was the light bulb moment for me of going, wait, I can do whatever I want. This is crazy. Why am I trying to listen to this prescribed methodology of doing things? And I remember so vividly everyone being like, yo, In Rainbows, this is crazy. And for some reason that was my big turning point, was recognizing that, you know, even with building a touring career, it can be on your terms. It can be that like, and for me, when I do touring today, I'm doing things like these one-off gigs, you know, like I am going, I'll do regional tours. I will just stay southern bound right off that I-10 stretch. And that is good for me because I have people in all of these locations. And so for me, it's sustainable. It's a way that I can see friends. It's a way that it's like low barrier, low stress. And so I've started building up a space for me of what is low barrier, what's low stress, what is good for me mentally speaking, and allowing that to help guide and drive the fact that being a musician doesn't have to look a certain way. It looks the way that you want to design it. And sometimes that's really hard to accept, especially in a femme body, when you're like, but this is what the industry told me.
Well, exactly. I mean, when I was growing up, Joni Mitchell was the rage, and I was singing blues with long dark hair. I did not fit into the mold, but that's what I wanted to do. But one thing I would like to bring up too, and I think we've all kind of touched on it without speaking it, is as the years pass, and you did say something, Ashley, about the models. Like a lot of people are still going on the models of what was there when they were 20. Well, they're completely different now. Social media, um, but the internet, Zoom has changed what you can do, how you can make money, how you can reach your fans. It doesn't have to be in person. But one thing that's been interesting is like when I was in my 20s, I wanted it all, like you, Cindy, and did it all. And I was still like loving going out and performing, but it was very hard because I work with some of the best musicians out there. And then I had to go hide and do a gig somewhere. And I was a passionate guitar player. I was pretty good. I mean, a lot of people, when I would sing, would just be staring at my left hand and on my fretboard to see what I was playing. And then 20 years ago, I made a decision. I would practice because I used to be a music major. And I would practice, and then I'd let it go because I was working for the people I was working for. And it was the myth of Sisyphus. And I said, you know what? I love the guitar. I pick it up and make a chord, and it's unbelievable. I am so blessed I can make that sound. I'm not practicing anymore. I'm done. And I love the sound of guitar. So I still kind of sing a lot and make harmonies everywhere, including my clients. They're giving me A&R, and I'm like, yeah, there's a harmony here. Look, it sounds like this. And then I have booked lots of festivals. Well, I've been assistant festival director for many festivals that I did get to Newport and Merlefest, but I booked 2 citywide festivals here and multiple venues wherever I lived. And I remember I was 54 and I was listening to the concert calendar and I go, yeah, I should see that person, that person, that person, that person. And when I booked at 47, this citywide festival, I had 500 submissions on tape that I had to go out 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week and look at music. And I heard that concert calendar and I'm like, I should. And I said, you know what? I've done that. I don't have to go out all the time and see that music. Plus, I've been a tour manager and I'm weeks on the road. I've seen a lot of music. So one of the points I'm trying to make here is as you age, as you've been in the business for a long time, there are new models. You can make it your own way. And with that, I would like to see if there are any questions. And I think Scott is and Cindy are monitoring the chat.
I'd be happy to read them. There's also a few in the Q&A and a few in the chat. So if you have any, I would say let's put them in the Q&A for now. But I'm going to pull a really good one from the chat for a minute. Laura Lewis says, I am an organizer and have had a really enriching experience in past both for myself and for my community. My last endeavor has ended and I'm looking for the next step. Talk about finding the next thing and the balance between actively seeking and letting things happen.
I'll start and then anyone can jump in. When I was in Boston, I moved down here in Nashville at 34. I published a magazine. I was producing concerts at Harvard Symphony Hall. And I moved to Nashville and I couldn't figure out what was going on here. The music industry was different. And when you said, Cindy, that your identity was your skills, I came down here and I'm going through what you're going through and trying to get to the next step. And what I did is I had to believe in myself. I had to have a combination of letting things happen and being patient. And I went to work as an executive secretary. All the musicians knew me, so I was at the Station Inn, I was doing the door, but I couldn't figure it out here. And eventually I found my way. So what I tell artists, like if you're writing a new album or if you're in between something and you're waiting to figure out what's happening, the thing is, it is an incredible joy, actually, which we don't think of it that way, to have the space to not know what you're going to do. So I would embrace that and trust by digging into yourself and just living any way you can around you and doing what you need to do to keep home and hearth together, that you will be led to the right answer if you have that belief, and to actually embrace this time of indecision because they're rare and they can be really wonderful.
I can speak to this. So I can't, Laura, I just went through something really similar. I just had a lot of life changes and I felt as though, and it's funny because Maymon and I met over these life changes and I felt like I needed to slow down and touch some grass. And so, and I am actually talking about lawns. I went outside every day and I sat in the lawn or went to a park and laid in the lawn. And I literally thought, all right, what do I love so much about everything I've gotten to do? Not what do people love about me and what I've done, but what do I love? And then one of the things is I started talking about those things. I talked about them with my friends, with my family, and not in a way that was selling myself, but in a way that brought encouragement to myself. And one of the things that I learned is when we are authentically sharing what we care about, it opens up more opportunities than we thought or knew were out there because we're communicating in a way that is opening up, that we're open to whatever comes our way. Kari has said this so many times to me over my life, but it's so much easier, right, to talk about Ashley or Maymon or Kari because we talk about our friends, we talk about the people we're passionate about, but it's also okay to talk about the passions that we have, not just what we're making, but what we have. And people around us that we don't even recognize want to see us succeed will rise to that occasion. So I would encourage you to have conversations. First, go lay in some grass and take some time to think about what you're grateful for. But then start having conversations with people, because new opportunities you didn't even think were possible will pop up.
That's great, Cindy. And I feel if you're patient and you go out and you live your life and not worry about who you are in the music world, that if you're moving, if you're doing things, if you're sitting still, but if you're doing the right thing and being true to yourself, the universe will send you something from left field that you don't. So you do have to like just be chill, but get out there and experience. Um, Alyssa, thank you for that too. Alyssa Rodriguez has a question on management of work-life relationship balance. How do you find time and space to be creative about all the admin work of being an independent, self-employed artist? Um, Ashley or Maimon, would you like to take that?
I'm happy to start this one. Um, One thing that I will note is like when I was first starting in my career, I was really bad at this, like really egregiously bad at this. And I have no problem owning that, because I think that all of us go through these moments and spaces of just saying yes to everything without recognizing that there actually is a repercussion for some elements of our life. And to be frank, that was me. And I used a lot of that to start to impart learning lessons on myself. And I'll also note that like the pandemic actually was a big saving grace for me to save me from myself. And I used the learnings of doing too much, saying yes to everything, to then start to begin to create balance. And part of it for me, and again, this is the way that my brain works, is like I love a calendar. I find calendars to be very sexy and beautiful. But it's it's a thing for me that um, it forced me to stop and take breaks to go, hold on. This whole time period, I am like in full admin mode and I have not taken space for me. So and it allows me to visualize and see for real where I have not taken pause or breaks for myself, and force myself to step away and have that space to just be and be a human being and do the things I love, including disassociating at a thrift store with iced coffee. And and it allows me to just create that balance. As it relates to creatively speaking, sometimes I find for me that the best time creatively is when I know that I have these blocks and windows for rehearsals, or if I have like a 4 hour window, I'm going to go hop into the other room, because I have instruments everywhere in this house. Just to be clear, I keep things out visually, because if I don't see them, then I won't create. And I just allow myself to create with whatever I am deeply feeling. I mean, I'm going to even give context here. Like, I made this hat the other day because I had all these appliques out and I thought, this is a good use of my time and my creativity. And so I'll do things like that. I just leave things out so then I allow myself to like be and exist. And I know that was a really long-winded answer, but sometimes putting things out in front of your face in a way that works for you tends to be the best thing to do. I know for me, I'm a grazer. I need to graze and play my instruments and play with my crafts in the midst of having all of this other admin work. And that works for me. So I think the question then becomes like, what is the thing that works for you to give yourself the space and grace? It started with a calendar for me and it ended with grazing with crafts.
Ashley, so you're checking in with yourself and asking what you need in that moment to keep going. And just to finish that question, just prioritization. Like I was singing in coffee houses, producing concerts, singing with a concert opera orchestra and the Harvard Slavic Chorus. And I'm like, something's got to go. So I prioritized and I'm like, all right, it's the opera. And then it was like, something else has to go. Oh, it's the Slavic chorus. And then you know, it's very difficult in life to shed but the word is prioritization and your own mental health. I wanted to get to this question, Annie Bartholomew. How do you deal with the negative voices when you started choosing your highest good or making decisions for your career that served your joy or music first? Excellent question. I deal with it a lot in consulting, but I'm going to go to you, Cindy. Putting her on the spot.
No, I have to be honest. I was reading that question. I was also answering a strategy question for someone going to farm who wanted to know how to release.
Okay.
Because I wanted to make sure they were there. Negative voices.
Well, let me jump in, and Maimon and then Cindy, if you come up with something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to take that one because I think it kind of streamlines with what Ashley was talking about. I have through the COVID time and just like I think where I am in life, I let my why always evolve. And also I really embrace that I'm more than a musician, that I'm having a human experience and music is something I get to do that I enjoy to do. And when it's not something that brings me joy, I have to put the brakes on and do something else. So I do take breaks to do other things, like extended breaks to do what I need to do to be a whole person. And I think that one of the things that's really beautiful about the way that music works now, that we do have so much independence to do that. And I also think as someone presenting as a woman, that I also embrace that this is the tool I get to use, and that it doesn't need to be like, you know, I actually love Taylor Swift, but I don't look like Taylor Swift. And I was in a conference once where someone walked in and said, I'm looking for the next Taylor Swift. And I said, well, then I'm going to go because we know what that means. So I have to keep boundaries for my heart and my mind and my artistry to just be a whole person. So when those negative voices, which are just saying you're not enough, come up, I have to fill that space with, here's what I am, because some things aren't meant for me. They aren't. They're meant for someone else. But what's meant for me is mine.
That's really beautiful. And something else about those negative voices is they come from people who aren't in their joy. We have 3 minutes. I want to get to one more question, Cindy.
Um,
Wanda asks about the role of sexism in people's careers and how challenging that is. And I'd like if each of you made a closing statement about that, starting with you, Cindy.
it's so interesting because I have had the opportunity to have mentors in the space who are older than me, and sexism looks different. It looks so differently in the well, Kari, we've walked through Scotland and had this conversation at nauseum. Sexism has not been my issue, it's been ageism. I came into a place where it was really hard coming in so young that people didn't respect me when they saw me in person. They were great on the phone. And then I feel like I grew into it. And there was this age at like 35, all of a sudden I had this real voice. But I would be honestly depicting myself incorrectly if I said that I've had in this industry, direct issues with sexism other than the good old boys club. And I think that that just is what it is. It was easier to break into it from an education standpoint and from having a place where I held my ground, but my age worked against me from coming in so young. So
Great
I have to, yeah.
Maimon.
I'd say any kind of ism is a bad thing, honestly. And I feel like it's really important for an artist to position themselves wherever possible to be the check signer, to have as much control over who they are as a person, because it's no different from being any other career, from being a dentist or a doctor or any kind of thing. This is your work. And if it doesn't, you're going to spend most of your life doing your work, and you need to be in a non-hostile environment. So I feel like for me, my experience, especially as a woman of color and over 150 pounds at any given time, and and not 25 anymore, and also really striving to be authentic as possible, that I think I just, where those spaces are not welcoming to me, I create my own space. You know, I invest in my own space. That's why the farm, that's why the festival, that's why people I choose to be around, I invest in my own spaces. And I say, if you don't want me, you won't see me. But where I make myself welcome where I need to be.
Thank you so much. Ashley.
You know, I feel like I had these intersectional experiences between both Maimon and with Cindy, in that I started my career out at a really young age. And so I experienced the blatant ageism of, oh, you're too young, or, oh, you're going to learn that when you're older. And similarly experienced the other isms as well, of being a brown woman coming into this space. And I would be lying if I didn't say that sexism was a huge part of this as well. I've had my fair share of experiences of when I'm the person that is the manager on the ground and people ask me to get my male counterparts. I've had my fair share of experiences of someone describing what the monitors were in front of me. And I think that is just a joke. I mean, what a joke. And also, I've had my fair share of experiences with really toxic, harmful cis male folks in spaces that believe that their voice is the one true voice within these spaces. And one of the things that I had to do was start to recognize, who am I surrounding myself with? Because the beautiful part of this industry as well is that we have an opportunity to decide who we surround ourselves with, who we engage with, who we choose to build relationships with. And I think that's like one of the pieces that we forget. This whole industry is built upon relationships. And so we actually have the power to be selfish and not associate ourselves with those folks. And it took me a long time to realize I did not have to prove myself to the people that were my tormentors, and that I could take this space to associate myself with good people, associate with myself with people that understood me, they understood my vibe, they understood I was more than my job titles, and were willing to be in space and community with me. And I do have to offer that just to as a nice little closer to a holistic career, of like, you get to decide who you associate yourself with. And to not forget that you don't have to stay in spaces with these individuals. I'll leave it at that.
That's lovely. And as someone who's the oldest of the group, I really grew up, it seems, in Neolithic times in terms of sexism, and I could write a book, just a whole book. So I won't do that, and tell you that when I was younger, um, I refused, and this as an adult, so I refused to let anyone else define me. Even then, I was a rebel. And so I managed a bluegrass legend when he was a legend in his 20s. I was tour managing, concert producing, but I followed my passion. So one is, don't let anyone else define you. The second thing is, there are different tools and resources, like Folk Alliance has a pledge that you can sign about sexual harassment. They didn't have those in my day. And so avail yourself of those. And they'll always be, like, being an older woman, I'm very fortunate that I don't face ageism yet, but I am turning 70 in November. But many women do, and it is so unfortunate. But one thing, with all these fabulous women on this call, we need to lift each other up. So let's be there for each other. And I do hope, I have been so excited to hear Maimon and Cindy and Ashley talk and share a little virtual tea together with you all. And I hope this has been very helpful, but I feel really fortunate to have gotten to have this topic with you all. You're muted, Cindy.
Thank you. I have to be honest, I'm in a really noisy setting, so I'm so glad you're not hearing the background. Um, Thank you to Kari, Ashley, Maymon. Thank you for authentic days. Also, thank you to the Folk Alliance team, the people you can't see, Lily and Scott, who are behind us, making it all happen. They're the best tech puppet masters one can imagine. Um, I just want to say that it's an amazing opportunity that our sponsor, Kari Estrin, and our hostess has made for us today, supporting this webinar and our community. If you are interested, we're going to put up a recording of this on our YouTube channel, and we'll send it out to registrants when it's available. But in the meantime, if you want to learn more about everything that Kari Estrin can offer you, and I do mean everything, from her amazing consulting services to a lifetime of friendship, please check out her website at kariestrin.com. And as a closing note, we do year-round online offerings, and those are at no cost to our members. We're thankful to the generosity of our donors and of our supporters like Kari. If you'd like to support this work, we always ask that donations be made at the link in our chat, or you can go to our website. But most of all, I just have to say it one last time. Kari, thank you. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for creating honest and holistic space for conversation, for humility, and for courage, because those make us all up. Stay safe and connected, community. We are so grateful to be part of you. And this will conclude our time together today. Thank you, everyone.